All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are for sure and are for certain the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book of the Bible. All right, so let's get into it, man. I had this article here, all right, coming from Natural News. All right, and I read, I read this part, I read a little part, but I didn't read all this down here. All right, so basically we're going to read this article together. All right, if we even, get through it all. But let's just get into it. All right. So like I said, this is coming from Natural News. All right. And the title of this article, it reads, "How much have nuclear weapons changed warfare?" All right. And that's the type of war, all right, World War III is going to be. It's going to be a nuclear war. All right. Matter of fact, let's start off with that. All right. That's Isaiah the 9th chapter. All right. Isaiah 9. All right. Verse 5. Right. So it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood," because that's what war is. All right. War is a bloody thing. All throughout history, war has been a bloody thing. All right. And it says, "For every battle of the warriors with confused noise," because you got the clinging of the armor, the swords, weapons going off, right? But again, it says Isaiah 9 and 5, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this," meaning this war, World War III, right? "But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." All right. So like I said, all right, this third world war is going to be with burning and fuel of fire. This third world war is not going to be a boots on the ground war. It's going to be a nuclear war. All right. Missiles being shot off. All right. ICBM missiles that carry multiple nuclear warheads are going to be shot off from one end to the earth to the other, coming down and raining down upon nations. All right. Matter of fact, let's get that as well. All right. Let's get that in the book of Ecclesiasticus. No, my bad. Not Ecclesiasticus. All right. The book of 2nd Ezra. All right. I think it's the 16th chapter. All right. Starting around the 13th verse. Right. So it says 2nd Ezra, all right, 16 and 13, it says, "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow." All right, the bow, all right, shoots what? Arrows. All right, the modern day bow is the missile silo. All right, and then the arrow are the nuclear missiles, the missile silos that shoot the missiles, right? So it says 2nd Ezra 16 and 13, it says, "Strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world." Those arrows are talking about missiles. All right. And it's not talking about literal, actual arrows, because arrows can't be shot from one end to the earth to the other. All right. So like it says right here, "His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world." All right. So that's the type of war this third world war is going to be. It's going to be a nuclear war. All right. We just read it in Isaiah 9. All right. And 5. "But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." All right, World War III is going to be a war of burning and fuel of fire. All right, ICBM missiles being shot from one end to the earth to the other, just like we're reading right here in 2nd Ezra 16:13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Woo! All right. So let's go back into this article. All right. It says, how much have nuclear weapons changed warfare? And again, that's the type of war this third world war is going to be. All right. It's going to be a nuclear war. All right. Nuclear missiles raining down and pelting this earth, especially here in America. Right. But anyway, let's read this article. All right. Let's see how far we get. All right. I might get a little tired. All right. I just wanted to make a video real quick. It probably won't be real quick, but I wanted to get another video done before I went to bed. All right, so let's get it, man. Anyway, it says the United States is modernizing its nuclear triad at an estimated cost of $2 trillion over 3 decades, according to retired Lieutenant, William Astor, a former history professor and senior fellow at the Eisenhower Media Network. All right, the program includes, matter of fact, let's read that first sentence again. It says the United States is modernizing its nuclear triad. Now, why are, these nations, all right, doing nuclear tests and ICBM tests, all right? Nations are modernizing their weapons, right? Because the Lord is gearing up these nations, man. All right? The Lord is gathering the nations and assembling the kingdoms for this third world war. All right? Like he said in Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, the 8th verse. All right? The Lord said, all the earth shall be devoured, all right, with the fire of my jealousy. All right? So that's why you see these nations, they doing missile tests and nuclear tests and ICBM tests. Nations are doing all types of drills together. Allied nations doing military and nuclear drills together, Nations are modernizing their weapons. Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, the 8th verse. For my determination is to gather the nations and to assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation. All right? To pour even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. All right? The Lord is gearing up these nations, man. All right? It says the United States is modernizing its nuclear triad. All right? Matter of fact, I wasn't even going to get the verse, but the Spirit is telling me to do so. I feel like I have to do so. All right, so let me get that verse I just quoted. All right, that's Zephaniah, 3rd chapter. All right, the 8th verse. All right, it says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms. And that's exactly what you see happening right now. All these nations are literally gearing up for this World War III, this third world war, right? It says, for my determination is to gather the nations. All right. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdom. So it's the Lord that's doing this, bringing all these nations together for this third world war. He said, this is my determination. All right. This is the Lord's will. And the Lord said, my word shall not return unto me void. It shall accomplish whatsoever I please. Right? Roughly paraphrasing that verse. So this prophecy is inevitable. All right. This third world war is inevitable. And this is what the true prophets and the true servants of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai have been prophesying. all right, out on the highways and hedges for years and 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 years, man. And now it's finally here. All right. So let's keep reading. It says, "For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation." And the word indignation means righteous anger. All right. So the Lord is getting ready to bring these nations, all right, together for this third world war, so they can make it rain nuclear fire upon each other. That's the anger of the Lord, these nuclear missiles raining upon this earth, right? To pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. And that's going to be, during this third world war, this nuclear war. All right, what did we just read earlier in Isaiah 9:5? "But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." Woo! Right? So let's go back to this article. All right, it says the United States is modernizing its nuclear triad at an estimated cost of $2 trillion over 3 decades, according to retired Lieutenant William Astor. Right? That's one of the that's crazy. That's one of the Illuminati, satanic Illuminati families, the Astors, right? But right here he spelled it with an E, right? It says a former history professor and senior fellow at the Eisenhower Media Network. The program includes a new intercontinental ballistic missile, all right, called the Centennial, right? A new stealth bomber, all right? Yeah, see, like, come on, man. The Lord got these nations modernizing their weapons, making them more powerful, more dangerous, right? That's the wisdom and knowledge of the Lord that the Lord is giving the king that he has given the kings of this earth. All right, see, you got to understand the heavenly father's the heavenly father Yahweh. All right, his power is omnipotent, meaning unlimited. The Lord could always outdo himself. What you thought the current technology for nuclear weapons, that you thought that was just the most powerful? Nah, nigga. The Lord said, you know what? I'm about to give him new wisdom. All right, new information on how to create even something more powerful. Right? Because the Lord said, "For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." All right. Isaiah 54:16. All right. The Lord said, "I created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, that bringeth forth an instrument for his work." All right. "I have created the waster to destroy." Woo! All right. So the Lord, put it in the minds of these scientists. All right. These nuclear scientists, all right, to create even more powerful weapons. All right, that's the scripture I just quoted. All right, Isaiah 54:16. Right? So it says, where was I? It says the program includes a new intercontinental ballistic missile, a new one, not no current shit, right? The Centennial, a new stealth bomber, all right, the B-21 Raider, and a new submarine force, the Columbia class, all right? At the same time, according to Astor, all right, Russia's potential use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine represents perhaps the most alarming military scenario facing the world in the immediate future. That's right. In the immediate future. The very near future. This is what's getting ready to pop off. All right, we've been telling you this, man. All right? Come on, dog. Have not the prophets of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai been prophesying? First and foremost, all right? Which are the Israelites of great millstone and the ones that teach in like manner. That's where the 100% true doctrine is at. All right? That's where the truth about the mark of the beast is at. All right? The mark of the beast being the RFID microchip. Okay? So it says, at the same time, according to ASTOR, all right, Russia's potential use of a nuclear weapon in Ukraine represents perhaps the most alarming military scenario facing the world in the immediate future. Yeah. Right? Come on, dog. It says proposed missile defense systems such as the Golden Dome, revived by President Donald Trump, could cost over $1 trillion, analysts said. All right. And the Golden Dome isn't going to do shit, bro. The Golden Dome is not going to stop, all right, these ICBM missiles and hypersonic missiles that carry multiple nuclear warheads, man. All right, coming from Russia, Iran, right? None of these missile defense, bro. I did an article about a month ago, a couple weeks back, some change ago. All right, how they were talking about that none of the defense systems that US has can stop China or Russia. None of them, man. All right, that's why when you read Ezekiel the 38th chapter, right, Israel, all right, first and foremost, all right, but it's also twofold. All right, Israel and America is known as what? The land of unwalled villages, because a land without walls is a land without protection. All right, so why is Israel and America known as the land of unwalled villages? All right, because America is a land without protection. There's not going to be any type of defense missile system that's going to stop these nuclear missiles from hitting this place you call America and wiping it and obliterating it from off the face of this earth, man. Prophecy is going to be fulfilled. We've been prophesying, all right, the downfall and the destruction of America for years. All right, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazah, I am one of the Lord's true chosen prophets. We've been prophesying this for years, bro. We've been out on the highways and hedges telling you that America is going to be destroyed. All right. So it says proposed missile defense systems such as the Golden Dome, revived by President Donald Trump, could cost over $1 trillion, analysts said. All right. A separate analysis by the Congressional Budget Office estimated that developing, deploying, and operating an Iron Dome for America missile defense system would cost approximately $1.2 trillion over 20 years, according to a report by Willow Tohi. All right. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is seeking $104 billion for its nuclear weapons program, right? A 19.5% spending increase, as Lance D. Johnson reported. All right. So let's keep reading a little bit more. It says, since the end of World War II, all right, two schools of thought have shaped the debate over nuclear weapons, according to ASTOR, right? One view holds that nuclear weapons are no different from other weapons in their military utility, all right? A contrasting view asserts that nuclear weapons are qualitatively, all right, different because they alter the fundamental nature of war. All right, supporters of the latter argument point to nuclear weapons' unique destructive power. Yeah. All right. And environmental effects, all right, including radiation and the potential, all right, for nuclear winter. All right. It says former Defense Secretary Robert McNamara was a prominent advocate for the second view. In a statement cited by ASTOR, McNamara said nuclear weapons serve no military purpose whatsoever. Well, yeah, they do fill a purpose. All right, they feel they serve a purpose for for fulfilling, all right, the prophecy and will of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. So yeah, all right, nuclear weapons serve as no military purpose whatsoever. All right, they are totally useless, all right, except only to deter one's opponent from using them. All right, Fred Kaplan, author of The Wizards of Armageddon. And that's what these elites are. All right, they are the wizards of Armageddon because, you know, the elites are wizards. All right, that's all they're into is wizardry and sorcery and witchcraft, and they worship Satan on the left hand side. All right, that's where they get their power from, right? They worship Satan, right? And they're getting ready, and they have a plan, all right, to bring this third world war, all right, known as the Albert Pike and Mazzini blueprint, right, which is known as Armageddon in the Bible. So you got this third world war known as Armageddon in the Bible, right? So yeah, the Wizards of Armageddon, right, came, all right, Fred Kaplan, author of The Wizards of Armageddon, came to a similar conclusion, all right. And now I got to get into that book, all right. It says, according to Kaplan, all right, even after 30 years of thinking about the unthinkable, no one knows how to fight and win a nuclear war, all right. But that's what's getting ready to pop off, right? The rational analysts have been unable to make the bomb conform to human proportions, right? Yeah, all right. And that's the Lord that hid that information from them, right? So when these missiles let off, they let off, all right, to the point where America is going to be obliterated. This for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Come on, dog. It says the doctrine of nuclear deterrence relies on the threat of massive retaliation, right, to prevent an adversary from striking first. But critics argue that the policy rests on an inherently immoral foundation. All right, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, as quoted in A. Store's article, all right, stated the essence of nuclear deterrence is the threat to use instruments of indiscriminate destructive power against an adversary. The moral depravity of such a policy can be best appreciated by reducing its scale, removing the high technology, and abandoning sanitized words, right? The group asked whether people would accept a policy that forced leaders to threaten to burn 10 children of an adversary nation to death, right? It says Robert McNamara, all right, in his book Blundering into Disaster, Surviving the First Century of a Nuclear Age. See, now I always like when articles and other books reference other books, because then now I could go into those books, right? It says Robert McNamara, in his book Blundering into Disaster, Surviving the First Century of the Nuclear Age, argued for steps such as strengthening NATO's conventional forces to permit an early shift to a strategy of no early first use and restructuring the Strategic Defense Initiative to a research program. The contradiction within deterrence, according to Jim Wallace in Waging Peace, is that it is not possible to halt the arms competition and at the same time rely on arms for security, all right, and diplomatic influence. Yeah, it says O'Connell, all right, cited by A. Store, all right, emphasized the corrosive effects of deterrence, stating that a political structure founded on the threat of random and ultimate violence should have a corrosive effect upon everything it touches. All right, let's keep reading. I'm gonna read a little more. All right, but I'm gonna go right here All right. Right where I just highlighted it at, right? So it says the US nuclear triad modernization includes the Sentinel, all right, ICBM, all right, the B-21 Raider bomber and Columbia class submarines. All right, the congressional, no matter of fact, let's keep reading. It says the Congressional Budget Office estimates the Golden Dome missile defense could cost 1.2 trillion. Meanwhile, Russia maintains what the Federation of American Scientists estimates as the world's largest nuclear stockpile. And that's something that I go into all the time. All right? Russia has the largest, all right, nuclear stockpile in the world, the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Now, why would Russia have the largest nuclear stockpile, the largest nuclear arsenal in the world? That's the spirit of the Lord that has it like that. All right, because Russia is going to be the main ones to destroy America, man. All right, they have the largest nuclear stockpile in the world. All right. Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah has to be fulfilled. The Lord said he going to raise up a nation, all right, from the north, which is Russia, man. Come on, dog. All right. So it says American scientists estimates as the world's largest nuclear stockpile, right, with approximately 5,459 total warheads. Woo! So Russia has 5,459 total nuclear warheads. That's the spirit of the Lord that has it like that, man. All right. It says in May 2026, Moscow's nuclear forces kicked off a 3-day readiness exercise mobilizing over 64,000 troops and more than 7,800 pieces of equipment. China is rapidly expanding its arsenal. Yeah. So you see how the Lord is gearing up all these nations, all right? And even modernizing their weapons, man. Come on, dog. It says China is rapidly expanding its arsenal, projecting to exceed 1,000 warheads by 2030, according to a report by Ava Grace. All right, Pentagon officials told lawmakers, all right, in April 2026, all right, that the United States have no effective defense against hypersonic. I just said that, man. Didn't I just mention that? All right, that I did a lesson a couple of months back talking about how America has no effective, like it says right here, no effective defense against hypersonic and cruise missiles developed by China and Russia. And that's the spirit of the Lord that hid that from the scientists of the US, man. All right, for that the US can't gain that technology to stop these missiles coming from China and Russia, because prophecy has to be fulfilled. America is going to be destroyed by nuclear fire in this third world war. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. And that's what the prophets have been speaking. All right, prophesying the downfall and the destruction of this place you call America, letting you know that it's going to be destroyed and wiped off the face of this earth in this third world war by nuclear destruction. Call her Loyam Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakal Quitash. You got to be bugged out to not want to see this place go. You got to be bugged out to want to keep living in this place instead of obtaining the kingdom of heaven, man. All right. It says, let's keep reading. It says, despite decades of analysis, all right, fundamental questions remain unresolved. Aster noted that nuclear weapons have not ended total war, citing the conflicts in Vietnam and Iraq as examples of near total conventional war. The debate continues over whether elimination of nuclear weapons is possible or would increase the risk of conventional war, Robert McNamara argued that a stable deterrence requires that neither opponent should have a rational motive to launch first. All right, but that's what's going to happen. All right. Let's see. All right. So yeah, I keep it at that. All right. I'll end it right there. All right. If you can read this article yourself. All right. And Lord willing, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazad, this lesson is or was edifying. Call Haloyam Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Kwitash. All right. Until the next one. Shalom. Shalom.